So it all started back in 2023. I was about 15 years old and I was going through one of the worst phases in my life. I had a whole bunch of toxic friends. Basically, like every friend that I had that were like close friends were like really toxic. They used to bully me and like they used to do some weird shit where they'd they essentially all would sort of group and sort of bully me together. I actually had two bully groups in two different classes. So I had toxic friends who bullied me. So like my own in group bullies me, and then in my own class, we as this group also get bullied. So I was getting bullied with those same friends who bullied me, um, by the sort of bully group that was in our class, and there was also this other bully group, which I'll get to in a minute. Um, that when I moved to another class, they ended up actually bullying me as well. So I was going through some difficult time. Those kids, they were basically the majority of the class. So we're talking their group was probably like 10, 12 kids, whilst we were like three, like guys who were like together, like the two guys that bullied me. Obviously, there was like a third guy who was in a different class, but like it's a long story. Um, and so we would basically go to school every morning, and we would have to spend 8 hours with those bullies in the same class, getting bullied, getting made fun of. And what's funny enough is none of the teachers, like they all saw it happening. None of them told the principal. None of them tried to stop it. Um, it was just crazy. No one really stood up for the truth, even though they all saw that we were getting bullied. That we probably didn't deserve this, but regardless, I end up just kind of getting sick of this. And I was especially getting bullied for being on, like, not, I wasn't on self improvement back then, but I sort of used to do these kind of different things where I was the kind of kid who wouldn't really even go to sports class. I would sit in the home class and I would sort of just read books, or I would like start writing and journaling. And everyone made fun of me of it. Like everyone, the bully groups, and also my own friend, like toxic friends, they would keep bullying me. They would tell me, "What are you doing? How's this book gonna change your life?" All this kind of stuff. And they all knew that I had an aspiration to be rich someday, and I had aspirations to have like some big goals. I was quite an ambitious guy, but I just didn't care about the same things that they cared about. They cared about school and getting the degree, whilst I was in a completely different world, thinking about all these different things that I aspire to build. And eventually, it kind of got to a breaking point with the bully group where I actually ended up sort of confronting them and sort of telling them, hey, like, we should stop this. And essentially, one of the dudes actually kind of respected that I did that. And he ended up pulling, he was essentially like the big guy, like the big chump guy between all those guys. And he essentially ended up stopping all those guys specifically from bullying me. So the two other guys that didn't stand up for themselves, they actually continued to get bullied. But I was sort of held as an exception. They actually befriended me because they respected that I sort of did that. Which I didn't even expect, to be completely honest. I just wanted it to end. And for my toxic friends, this is pretty funny, but I actually ended up giving them letters telling them that I basically won't be hanging around you anymore. Essentially saying that I'm going my different way and I'm going to start self-improvement. And that back then I was sort of on the doors of starting self-improvement, which was pretty amazing. I started to learn about mental health. I started to learn about dopamine detox. I started to learn about all these different things. And yeah, so basically I realized my friends were toxic. So I basically gave them those letters. I stopped hanging around them. And I started hanging basically on my own. And when the next year of studying sort of came by, I moved to another class, but obviously I was on self-improvement then. So then I started self-improvement officially. And I sort of started to meditate every single day. I started to fix my mental health. That was when I also started the channel and I started to make those videos. It was a really nice period back then. And, obviously like I'd spend most of my day learning, watching educational podcasts, reading books, journaling, meditating, exercising. I did it all. And it was a really amazing thing to see out of like just a 15-year-old, because I ended up really building an amazing mindset for myself. And so I moved to this new class, and I actually find this guy who ends up becoming my best friend, who still is my best friend to this day, um, who basically is kind of on self improvement. Like, he's not really on self improvement. Like, not my kind of self improvement where I meditate and sort of do this stuff, but he was sort of really religious in that sense. Um, and so me and him become really close friends. We start hanging around each other every single day. And he opens my mind to so many different things. I open up his mind to so many different things. We both understand that our world is like this big matrix, this like shitty world. And back then, both of us were 15-year-olds. Like, you gotta understand this. We were 15-year-olds thinking about all these different problems in the world. And so I actually, at that time, I also met my second bully group. And essentially, there was this guy who was sort of like on his own, and he was sort of a bully. And then there was also there was also like a bully group in that class. And so basically there were like four guys. One of them was kind of like really like, or two of them were kind of like really sort of like, they envied me because they saw me sort of reading books and sort of journaling and improving myself. And I even used to like meditate sometimes and like the class and stuff. So they kind of envied me for that. Obviously, like, I was also like really lean. I sort of like had a decent physique back then, like far better than most 15-year-olds. And so those guys were actually fat. And so they actually envied that as well. It was nuts. And actually those guys ended up sort of trying to bully me. I even used to talk about them back when I used to make like the first kind of videos. But there was this other guy who was actually sort of more physical. And so this guy, he was a fat guy. Nobody really liked him in the class. And for some reason, he chose me, right? And so he would start to bully me. And like, he would basically do weird shit. He was like really like this kind of horny guy. He would even like come to school. And these are 15-year-olds. We're literally 15-year-olds. And he would come to school drunk as a 15-year-old, which is crazy. We like, yeah, obviously like we'd see like his fucking red eyes and he'd sort of like do weird shit. So we obviously knew he was drunk. And he would start to do some like very, very dirty shit. Like, he would sort of like walk behind me and start like sort of clapping on his thighs, essentially kind of like saying that he's like fucking me or whatever. Like, some weird fucking shit, like fucking retarded 15-year-olds. And actually, it happens about twice. And the third time, I actually punch him. Like, I actually like fucking get physical with him. I punch him and he literally like fucking like gets dizzy and shit. It becomes a big problem. But I stood up for myself. They actually wanted to expel him from the school, but I told them, I don't really care if you expel him or not. Just, what I care about is that he never does this again, because if he does that again, it won't just be a fucking dizziness fucking problem. I'll move him to the emergency room. So regardless, long story short, that was basically how I ended up dealing with it. Obviously, the second bully group, obviously those guys were kind of like more so snaky. Like, they weren't as confrontational as the two other bullies. And so those guys would sort of just throw comments and stuff. And I actually never really confronted them about it. Like, I left school without even confronting them about it because I didn't really see much value in doing it. Like, they didn't really... Honestly, they were kind of content for me back then because I could just make videos of their retarded shit that they used to fucking say. Regardless, we got into a whole deep rabbit hole. Essentially, I went full in on self-improvement. And at that time, I was the most consistent I was at doing all those habits. I had the best mental health that I'd had ever. I was very happy at that time. And obviously, then I sort of start to get pulled into different directions. I start to listen to all these finance gurus. I start to listen to all these different things. And I start to forget the self-improvement. I start to just sort of focus on how do I make money? How do I get successful? And in the pursuit of trying to make money, I actually end up losing self-improvement. And I obviously have shit mental health and I sort of have all that shit. And now we're sort of at the time where it's almost like 2024. No, it is 2024. Like, we're around like April. And my best friend who's like the religious guy comes up to me and he tells me that there's a specific thing that he is going to do. And basically, like, the chances of him sort of returning is very low. And so I sort of go crazy. I absolutely know that like he's on his own life path. I can't really stop him, so I just sort of support him because he supported me all the way. Um, and at that time, I actually discovered that I wanted to leave school. I discovered all these different decisions that I wanted to make, but I just didn't sort of make them because obviously my parents sort of like those doors were just closed. I couldn't really like try and find my way through them. And so that was sort of my breaking point. I'd sort of been falling and falling and falling because I lost the self improvement. I lost all these kinds of different things. And I basically just started to focus on money. And then this was the breaking point. My own best friend who was on self improvement is literally going to even sort of like leave. He's no longer going to be here. So I get really sad. Obviously, like even the picture in the thumbnail was me crying back then because I was like that sort of emotionally hit with it because I really wanted, I wanted it to last longer. I enjoyed our friendship. He was like this really close friend of mine, and he was my like basically my only friend back then. So I had a really deep connection with him, and sort of seeing him that he was going to leave, I actually ended up crying about that. And so, by complete coincidence, God sends me this guy who becomes my new best friend. He's very close to the vibe of my old best friend. He's just more degenerate. He's not really religious. He's just sort of like this guy who's like, he goes to the gym. I actually met him in the gym. And, I basically start becoming best friends with this guy. We start to do all kinds of different shit. We're basically like hanging out every single day. And we actually, because he's more degenerate, I start to sort of open up to that. And obviously, because I completely forgot about the self-improvement at that time, there was nothing stopping me from doing all these kinds of bad habits and all this kind of stuff. And so it started with cigarettes. I sort of like smoked this occasional cigarette. I wasn't really addicted. I just kind of would do it every so often. It would like slowly start to lean towards degenerate friends because obviously he had a lot of friends. And I started to talk to all these different guys in the gym. And obviously, none of them were on self-improvement. None of them cared about any of that stuff. Most of them just kind of followed the traditional life path, university, and like going to school and all this kind of stuff. And so I obviously started to make a whole bunch of degenerate friends. I started to hang around this guy a whole bunch more and smoke. And I started to do all these kinds of bad habits, like in terms of like I would eat like junk food. I didn't really care about dopamine. Like dopamine was out of the picture, right? The self-improvement was out of the picture. I no longer meditated. The only thing I sort of did back then was actually I kept the channel up and I actually only posted fitness videos at that period, which is pretty like insane because the channel was literally self-improvement. And that was what I intended with this channel. And all of a sudden I started to focus on just fitness content. And it was actually because I had a fitness program back then and I wanted to sell it, which, I feel disgusted at myself for doing that. So a couple while passes, and next thing I know, I'm talking to this girl now. And about 2 months later, this girl ends up blocking me. I don't know why. And by complete coincidence, I actually start dating another girl, and this girl actually like I get extremely attached to. Obviously, like back then, like he was sort of my door to these kinds of things because I didn't really have much connections in terms of girls and everything. Like the kind of thing about me is I never even had female friends. I had one female friend when I was like 12, and I ended up sort of like just telling her that I liked her, and she ended up rejecting me. And ever since, I just sort of never talked to females as friends. It's either a relationship or nothing. So that's actually a really good mindset for young men these days. But regardless. So I ended up dating this girl. We actually stayed together for about 4 months, and we were like really head over heels over each other. Like we used to like go out. I remember in our first month, we went like on 3 dates or something. It was like crazy. Obviously it sort of started to taper off. Eventually 4 months later, she ends up breaking up with me. And I was so attached to her back then. Like I would literally like every single morning waking up, I would literally just check my phone to see if she texted me. And if she didn't text me, I'd text her and all this kind of shit, right? Like the good morning text, all this kind of bullshit. And it basically like, I was really, really attached to her. And I lost the meaning of my life. I even sort of stopped posting the fitness videos back then. Um, because I just lost my purpose. I lost what I was sort of doing. I lost the self-improvement. I lost the YouTube afterwards because I just ended up getting attached to this girl and she breaks up with me. And now we are in December 2024 and I was mad. I was really annoyed at how this could happen. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it the least. I obviously had a whole bunch of PRs and I was really mad. I was in this, kind of fuck it, winter arc, all this kind of shit. And I actually, I started doing deadlifts and I deadlifted 180 back then. I was natural, which was funny enough. And yeah, so actually I ended up sort of trying to just focus on the gym and grind hard and all this kind of shit. And actually bulked up pretty well back then. And once it got to January, I basically, school returned and I was sort of supposed to go to school. And I'm sort of in the car with my mom. She's delivering me to school. And I was sort of just talking to her and we were sort of shitting on all the other people. And I'm like, look at all these employees, look at all these people. It's back then I had a really Jewish mindset where I was just kind of really focused on money. So I was like, look at all these people. They're working 9 to 5s. None of them are financially free, all this stuff. She's like, yeah, you're right. And all this kind of stuff. And then I was like, why are you delivering me to school? Why are you delivering me to school? And I sort of said it in this kind of joking, but angry joking way. And she was like, do you want me to just get you to leave school? And for a second I froze because for the last 3 years or 2 years, when I was 15, I was asking her, could you let me leave school? They bluntly rejected it. They were like, no, you're not going to leave school. You're going to continue. You're going to finish it. You're going to go to university. And now out of nowhere, my own mom, who was rejecting me from leaving school, tells me, do you want me to get you out of school? And she says it in a serious way, which was just crazy. So I was like, hell yeah. And back then, because I was out of the breakup fresh and I was ready to make some big decisions, right? So in that sense, I was just like, hell yeah, let me leave school. And she was like, okay, I'll let you leave school. But the problem was that we actually ended up, we had already paid the sort of school year. So essentially I was forced to sort of continue that school year and leave the next year. And that was about a year ago. And so I ended up actually continuing that year. I even sort of finished the exams and everything. And I end up leaving school, which was one of the biggest decisions that I wanted to do for so long. But the other decision that I did was I started taking steroids. And that was back in January, actually. And I started with MK and I took it for the entire month of January. Ended up getting some really good strength, which was good. February, I stop it. March, I actually end up going back to it. And then in April, I actually start using steroids. And I start using testosterone. I start with 400 tests. I end up working my way. I did a whole bunch of cycles and stuff. But I basically started to take steroids. I was really happy about it. I took Tren. I took DECA. I took all the steroids I sort of wanted to take. I was really happy with that. It was one of those big decisions that I wanted to do for so long because I just knew steroids, they're going to build me my dream physique. I want to get big, right? I don't want to just have a normal physique. So I'm going to need the steroids at some point. And I was so happy that I actually ended up getting the acceptance from my parents to actually use steroids, which was just amazing. My main problem at that time was I still wasn't back to the self-improvement. I still hadn't realized that I needed the self-improvement. I completely forgot about it. And so I sort of just had this Jew maxing kind of mindset, where basically all I sort of wanted was basically just money, sort of seeking money and all this kind of stuff. And so I still had I stopped the self-improvement. I didn't meditate. I didn't used to do much. I was even sort of depressed and actually really hated my life. Even for the month of December, I actually used to cry every single day, missing that girl and reminiscing and stuff. I genuinely used to cry every single night. It was like a fucking big deal, right, back then. Um, and yeah, so obviously, um, I sort of, the one thing that I sort of continued to do, and I didn't do it from a self improvement standpoint. I actually did it purely, um, I mean, because obviously like Jew maxing, but also because I wanted to sort of get over the girl, and it actually helped me quite a lot. And it was journaling. I continued to journal. I actually used to write about my traumas. I used to write about that girl quite a lot. Um, sort of just like journaling and stuff. And I even sort of used to journal about the money kind of side of things and the business and all this kind of stuff. And I sort of started to get back to posting. I sort of, started to post again, and I actually posted really good videos back then. I actually have like a sort of new playlist of like just kind of like the group of videos I really like from that time period. I think I called it 2025 Ayad. Um, so yeah, that was, those 4 videos were really good. But obviously we're very kind of Jew maxing. Like you could see that I was just, all I cared about was just the Jew maxing side of things. Um, so obviously, I can basically continue on this, and I stay like this all the way till about February of 2026. So basically, I find self improvement again, and that was in February. I was like, back in September, I got quite religious. Um, and what's actually great is actually like my best friend came back and he actually survived it, which was pretty cool. So obviously like me and him sort of got close together again and all this kind of stuff. That guy's still pretty cool, like my other best friend. Um, like even though he's a degenerate, he's kind of like a really close friend. He supported me through a really tough period as well. So I'm kind of thankful for him at that. Um, and so obviously I got religious in September, and that was really good, but I wasn't on the self improvement yet. February comes by, I find the self improvement again, and I start this kind of extreme dopamine detox that I've sort of been on, basically since February. So it's almost been like 2 months. As I'm recording this, it's the 23rd of March. So yeah, like it's probably about like two months, or like 1 month and 20 days, regardless. So basically, like I go back to meditation, I go back to learning, I go back to all these kinds of different things that I'd sort of done, and more specifically, I go back to cutting out the bad habits. I cut out the junk food, I cut out the social media, the video games, which at some point I literally used to play video games. Like I don't know how someone could go from being so driven at 15 and then just like playing video games. Yeah, I cut out the smoking. I cut out every single bad habit that I had, which was really amazing. I even like used to watch anime at some point. I came back to watching anime. So I used to watch anime when I was young, went on self-improvement and cut it out. And then I lost track and I went back to watching anime. And then I sort of stopped it. So yeah, and I had some new additions where I sort of I limited my screen time. I made my phone black and white. Like I did a whole bunch of different things. Sort of like looking there because actually I have like my dopamine detox plan there. Yeah, obviously like I sort of did all these kinds of different things. Socializing, yeah, like there's a ton of different things that I did, right? And since that time, my mental health has improved significantly. My sort of trajectory of the channel has become extremely clear. I actually made a video about why most young men are lost today. In that video, I talked about like specifically like the kind of story that I mentioned about since the girl broke up with me and like, the rest of the story. And essentially, I talked about like the importance of journaling for young men. Not just young men, for all men, for being even women, obviously. But yeah, so I went back on self-improvement. My mental health improved significantly. I stopped being so Jew maxing driven. And I actually integrated the religion, sort of discovering that religion is like kind of like this, it really is a self-improvement kind of mindset when you really think about it. Religion is, when you have religion in your life, you really become just kind of more morally better as a person. You have more drive to be a better person. And so obviously, I integrated the religion in there as well, which was a part that I actually lacked when I first started self-improvement. And now I'm like at this extremely happy period in my life. I'm back to being consistent in these habits. I'm back to having just this amazing mental health, honestly, like doing all these, I actually like do cold exposure again, like all these kinds of habits that I neglected for so long, which have just changed my life back then. They frankly have. I even left the old friends that I had in that gym. So I got those degenerate friends and actually ended up leaving them. I basically like left that gym completely, like the old gym that I was in, and I actually moved to a new gym that was, I think, in November 2025. Yeah, man, I mean, like, honestly, self-improvement it really has changed my life. And like, obviously people like to make fun of this and they're like, like I changed self-improvement changed my life. Well, it's kind of like bullshit, right? Like brain rot, basically. But like, when we really like look at most people, the one thing that our world needs is more people with self-improvement mindsets, more people who care about their well-being. And it's like I even like mentioned this in an old video, but like fixing your mental health and doing dopamine detox, it's like life insurance. It's like, it literally protects you from having suicidal thoughts. It protects you from having negative thoughts. It protects you from anxiety, from depression, from all these shitty states. It makes you a happier human being. And obviously for someone who isn't religious, they would think that this is literally all that matters in life. Just living this life out fully and just being happy. And obviously, like, if you're religious, you'd know that this isn't just the purpose of life. But it is a big part of it to just live life and be happy and maintain a good mental health. Because when you don't, life just does become pretty shitty. It does become like this thing where you have to force it. And a big part about dopamine, actually, is that dopamine motivates you. And back then, when I sort of neglected the dopamine detox, I was not really motivated to do the work. Like when you look at me back when I like that sort of 15-year-old version of me, he used to post every single day consistently. And ever since that time, I actually didn't post daily ever. Literally, because I just didn't have the motivation to do it. I struggled to do it. And looking back, it's like I had so much good dopamine in me that actually motivated me to do the work, to be more productive. And I think this is a part that most people neglect about dopamine is it's not just 1 hour of video games that you pause. It's the fact that 1 hour of video games fucks up your motivation. I chose to start this video with my story, and actually it took quite a long while to sort of finish the story completely. But I do want this to kind of be like a more so longer video about specifically self-improvement and how I would start self-improvement. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's like my self-improvement story, but I want to sort of have this as the self-improvement full guide in some sense. And I could actually name it that, but I don't think it would just get much views. So we're going to stick to the title we have. All right. But, the point is, I wanted to sort of start this so that you get an idea about what I've sort of been through and what to expect for your self-improvement journey. You will have a lot of different things that will happen to you. You will probably fall off. There will be different things that will come your way that will sort of try to stop you from the self-improvement. And obviously, like the two biggest ones are like friends and just sort of going off the self-improvement, right? And authentic goals, obviously, like I had that actually, that was like the video that I recorded back in 2025. And I actually like mentioned that the two biggest downfall levers are sort of friends and authentic goals, because those could really put you in a completely different life path. And obviously there are tons of different things that I have faced personally, forgetting the self-improvement, all these kinds of different things. But I really just want you to sort of understand this, that self-improvement it's an infinite game. It's not a game that you choose to do for like a season of your life and then you end up stopping it. Because the reality is when you sort of continue to get on self-improvement, you are helping yourself be more motivated, be more disciplined, actually end up showing up for the things that you want to achieve, your goals. And so dopamine detoxing and sort of doing all these kinds of things, it's not just purely for just fixing your mental state and your mental health, but it's also for your goals. It is something that will help you achieve your goals and, stay consistent on them. And so I really need to just kind of nail this in, because people think that self-improvement is just sort of me fixing my happiness and me sort of being happy and me stopping being depressed and me stopping being anxious. But that's not really how it is. That's not the only benefit you get from self-improvement. And obviously, sort of getting right into it, self-improvement is really just the mindset of choosing yourself and choosing improving yourself, no matter the cost. When you sort of see something that you know is going to hurt you and hurt your progress and hurt your progression, hurt what you want to build, you cut that thing out, And what's funny enough is like you even sort of look at religion, and the reason I sort of compare self-improvement and religion so strictly to each other, because even religions will sort of tell you don't do this, and they'll sort of prohibit this thing for you, and then they'll allow you to do this other thing. And sort of that's kind of like the thing. It's like you have certain religion habits that you have to do every single day, and some stuff that are yearly, like whatever, right? And then it's like you look at self-improvement, and self-improvement has the exact same thing. And so I think religion is just like this deeper version of sort of self-improvement. And so going back to the main point, when you sort of choose yourself, it means that when you discover that social media hurts you, you choose yourself and you delete the social media. When you realize that the video games are actually fucking up your motivation and are stopping you from hitting harder workouts, stopping you from going to, basically like doing the work and like sort of fucking up your motivation, you'll think twice about playing the video game. And so it's about choosing yourself. And, obviously like religions will sort of come and obviously they'll tell you don't listen to music because music fucks up your dopamine. And so it's those kind of decisions where you choose yourself because you know that these things will fuck you up long term. You'll start to get dependent on listening to the music in your workouts. And you can't even have a proper workout if you don't have music. And so, and we see this all the time, by the way, but it's like, it's these kinds of things that will really set you apart in your self-improvement journey. Because most people, you'll find people on self-improvement, and it's obviously rare, but you'll find people on self-improvement, but they won't have proper self-improvement. They'll kind of have shitty mental health deep down. They'll just kind of like say these things that will sort of like, it's almost like this kind of like show off thing where they just sort of do it for people's attention. Oh, like my phone's black and white. Look, guys, I go to the gym and, all this kind of stuff. But actually, they are not willing to give up most of those things. In private, they probably play the video games. In private, they probably fap. In private, they probably have degenerate friends. But they'll tell you that they're these amazing angels who don't have that. And so do worry from a lot of these friends that you'll meet, especially in the gym, because you'll think that these people who go to the gym are like really kind of focusing on their self-improvement, like they're amazing people. But actually, I somewhat disagree with that. Most of the people who go to the gym, they just want girls, or they kind of like, they have this vague idea of like, yeah, like I just want to go to the gym. Some of them even just do it purely to say I go to the gym because it's just a flex to people. So do worry from these people, because these people are out there and they are very prominent and a big majority of what the people you see in the gym. And that's really the main idea. It's like when we sort of look at self-improvement is purely choosing yourself. And so it means obviously giving up the bad habits, choosing the good habits, because you know that these good habits will actually, push you forward. When you know that cold exposure literally gives you like a high for like 6 hours or I don't know how long, and it makes your dopamine healthy again, you'll be more likely to do cold exposure because you just become so much happier and better, and you improve your mental health almost instantaneously with a clip of fingers. And so it's like, there are so many of these kinds of different things that about self-improvement that really just kind of shift us, and they put us in a better direction in life. And so it's about choosing ourselves. And that's the main thing. That's why we call it self-improvement. It's just choosing ourselves. It's self-improvement, right? And at some point you get so extreme into the self-improvement that you obviously start to have a routine. You start to exactly define every single thing that you will do for each hour. When I sort of sat down to record this video, I had this planned from like days ago of exactly at this hour, I will sit down here and I will record this video, because that's how the extreme accomplishers do it. And obviously it's a somewhat Jew-maxing kind of mindset, but when you have this regimented thing, you're more likely to stick to it. When you have a regimented plan, even though you might not follow it 100%, it will still be better than not having a plan at all. So at some point, having a routine and sort of getting really extreme with all these kinds of different things becomes a priority for you, because you know that these things will push your life. And I'm gonna pause for a second and actually, because I just thought of this, I see a lot of people who are like, I fell into the self-improvement rabbit hole, and self-improvement's really bad because you end up getting so focused on the small stuff. Well, that's the point. Those small stuff that you end up focusing on are actually the main things that will push you into not only having better progression towards your goals, but also they'll give you the better mental health you're looking for. When you schedule your exercise and you don't miss your workout, you're less likely to have bad mental health, because you're thinking, when you go ahead and you miss a workout, you're like, oh no, like I missed my workout, and you have, bad mental health. When you schedule your meditation, you will be very happy that you did your meditation, because it will help you to become more aware and all these kinds of different things. And obviously the more important part is that when you schedule everything and you have a full day, you don't have time to fap. You don't have time to go to the video games. You don't have time to go back to social media. You don't have time to go out with those toxic friends. You're regimented. You have everything that you need to do perfectly planned. And in some case of a convenience, like an inconvenience of like, I don't know, your family tell you that you want to like go out to the grocery store or whatever, you can always adjust. And that's the good part about it, is you can always adjust later on if some inconvenience happens to come. And so I want this video to be this message to motivate as much people on the planet, as much humans, to go ahead and start self-improvement. And go ahead and get serious with this. If you are already on self-improvement, but you're just not really that committed, get committed. And what's funny enough is actually like you can see that I like sort of grew my hair and everything. And I'm actually going to buzz it in a few days, because I sort of really want to kind of dial in and sort of like start like getting even more strict than what I currently am. And I have a black and white phone. I'm like as strict as it gets. I literally have like specific meals that I eat, and I don't eat anything else besides those meals. So, it's like I'm as, kind of strict as it gets. And yet I want to make sure that I stick to it as much as possible, to the extent that I'm actually going to shave my head. And like I've been growing my hair for a while. Like I've been growing my hair for like the last 9 months, but I'm willing to shave it just for the fact of like, sort of like this kind of discipline mindset kind of shit. And I know this kind of like sounds cringy and like sort of like, like a cliche, but like it really does kind of push you forward. It makes you this more masculine person. It gives you more of this focus, And so obviously like you could even sort of do this where you sort of like buzz your head as you start self-improvement to sort of like go full in on the self-improvement. Going back to the main point, I want to motivate as much people to get on self-improvement and start improving themselves. Because when you improve yourself, you will not be sad about it. You will not regret improving yourself. Never will anyone sort of regret going to the gym. Never will anyone sort of regret reading a book. These things will always improve you. But to the same extent, those are the kinds of things that you will procrastinate on doing because you're delaying gratification when you do these things. As you're reading the book, or as you sort of go ahead and you want to grab the book, it feels like it has so much friction, because it's like, am I really going to read a book? There's more entertaining things I could do. I could play video games. I could do this. I could do that. But in reality, as you grab the book, once you open the book and you start reading, you realize you're in a flow state. You realize you've been reading for the last 3 hours and you're learning about this thing about history or about war or about mastery or about whatever, right? And so it's like self-improvement, it's all about like kind of the friction of starting, the friction of starting self-improvement, the friction of getting prepared so you could go to the gym. But it's once you take that step that you realize, oh man, like, I do not regret this. I'm very happy that I did this. And obviously, like, some people will be kind of, pulled away from the idea of self-improvement because maybe they don't want to give up the anime. They don't want to give up the music. They don't want to give up the bad habits. Or maybe they're scared of starting the good habits for whatever reason it is. But most of the time, it's actually people who are scared of the bad habits, not the good ones. And so if you're in that sort of place, I just want to reassure you that at some point in the future, even if you choose to not take action on this today, at some point in the future, you will definitely regret those things that you're doing right now. It's like, imagine like how easy and fragile it is to lose all those hours that you've put into a video game. It's like, not only does it actually not reflect anything on the real world, but it's like the moment that you delete the game, it's gone. Obviously, like, you could have an account. You could like tell me, I have an account, whatever. But like, you delete the account and it's gone. The hours and hours of you putting this work into this video game are gone. Completely neglecting all the different things that video games does, and it fucking fucks up your motivation, all this kind of shit. It's literally pointless. It's pointless to do these kinds of things. It's pointless to watch that anime. What's the point of watching an anime with all these bouncing chug-chugs? It's like, there's no point. You really don't get any benefit of watching these series or anime or whatever it might be. These things will only give you gratification right now. And even sort of like, once you fap, you don't feel good after you fap. Unless you've like been doing it for years and you're like kind of adjusted to it and you're like, it's fine. It's just that, it's okay, guys. It's okay. We're just 1 hour of fapping. It's okay to watch another man fuck the girl you want to fuck. It's okay, guys. Obviously it's just pathetic, but like deep down, you know that this isn't the way you're supposed to be. Deep down, you know that obviously you are annoyed that you still fap. You're annoyed that you do these kinds of weird fucked up shit. And when you don't fap, you obviously become a lot better. When you quit these addictions and bad habits, you become a lot better of a human being with your goals, with your motivation, with your mental health, with the people around you. You start acting better with the people around you. You start being a happier, more fulfilled person. People around you will enjoy your presence more when you leave these things. And so it all starts with self-improvement. And when you do start self-improvement, you will get exactly what I mean. You will get exactly what I sort of have. And I told you my story in the start of the video and actually took my fair share of time, but at some point you will have your own story of self-improvement. You will have your own trials and tribulations of self-improvement. And perhaps you could even sort of do what I'm doing at some point and actually end up opening your own channel, starting your own channel to talk about your own struggles, talk about your own self-improvement in your own way, right? But it starts with you getting on the self-improvement. And then once that's settled, people will just find their direction. You will find your purpose. And a big majority of getting on self-improvement is obviously goal setting, but also finding your purpose, journaling. There's a reason we have the habit of journaling. It's to find direction. It's to find yourself. It's to find your values, who you are. And so that's the main thing. This video, obviously, it's a pretty long video, but I really wanted to sort of go deep into this and really sort of try and not only show you my story, but also add on to this what I think self-improvement is and sort of help you to, just kind of grab your hand and sort of push you into the door of self-improvement. The way I was pushed by my own mentor about 3 years ago. And so you will not regret going on this. And one final note, once you do start self-improvement, don't be a dumbass like me and fall. Try and stick to self-improvement as much as possible. You've heard me. You've heard my story. I was amazing at 15 and I lost it all. Well, I didn't, but I lost that kind of drive I had because I focused on different things and I lost the main thing that I needed to focus on, which was the self-improvement. And so that's really all there is for this video. I hope that you got many insights in this, and I hope that you will actually take action on this, because I really do think a world of people, full of people who start self-improvement is a lot better than people who are degenerates, who fuck around, who don't really have direction in life. And so that's really all there was for this video. As long as you commit to the work, you'll be getting your results.